So, coming out of last night's videos, it was what I always suspected, which is that if you discuss Sidney Crosby, you will get a lot of hits. Um, you'll also get downvoted, which I did, and I have, and it's whatever. Um, but it raises an interesting topic, and it had me thinking about it today at work. I was looking through the comments, and a lot of people saying, well, this happens all the time. 100 times a game you'll see this happening. Slashing happens all the time. There's always slashing in a game. So, back in the old days, no, back until 2003, 2004, you had guys like Kevin Hatcher, Mike Rathje. Um, I'm trying to think. There were a lot of guys who were big, lumbering defensemen. And when you came in over the blue line, they would hook, grab, hold. You couldn't get through them. You couldn't get around them. They were just these big defensive linemen, for lack of a better way of putting it. Now, when they cracked down on the hooking and the holding, those defensemen were gone. Um, they couldn't keep up with the game anymore. They couldn't hook and hold. And part of the way that I know that certain players are on their way out of the league is if I'm watching and I notice regularly they're hooking and holding and getting called. It's like, okay, so they're falling behind the game. Need a little bit of a something there. So they're hooking and holding. Their careers are on their way down. Now, slashing is a penalty. Honestly, with that slash last night, clearly Crosby should have had a penalty. We're not getting into suspensions of what doesn't. Okay. And Eugene Melnyk, I don't want to get into Melnyk and his rant because there's two sides of every story. And with Sidney Crosby, I watched last year's playoffs and I watched how many times he got knocked down and thrown around and kicked around, and it happens a lot. Okay. Crosby takes a lot of abuse. He takes a lot of abuse from pretty much every player on the ice, other than his teammates, of course. But he does. Now, to me, it looked like what happened last night was it was a frustrated slash. It was stronger than your normal slash. Your normal slash won't take off a fingertip. Before you all decide to downvote me, let me finish. I understand these slashes happen in every game. So here's my deal. The NHL is looking at ways of increasing scoring, right? We're going to make the nets bigger. We're going to decrease the size of their equipment. We're going to make all the goaltenders play every other shot. They have to stand outside their net every second. No, they don't. Um, and certainly, not allowing them to play the puck in the corners was part of the reason. Oh, we've got to create scoring chances. All it's done is get some guys almost decapitated in races for pucks for icing. So what if they call slashing every single time? I can tell you from when they cracked down on holding and hooking, it made for some long games. You'd see 8 penalties on one side, 9 on the other. You would see a lot of it. And while there were players who said, we get what they're doing and we support it, there were certainly a lot of grumbling among fans, and because there were too many penalties, there was a feel that it was taking away from the flow of the game. They were trying to artificially create offense through power play goals and shorthanded goals too. And certainly there were detractors, but I would say that the game right now is better than what it was in 2003. So what if they decided to start calling slashing? And I was thinking about this today at work. So you're a defenseman and you've got to play on the puck or the stick and you do the two-handed wrap like this. If this means that the referee's immediately looking at what you connect with and what happens, and no matter how many times in a game it happens, this, when you're not aiming at the puck and you hit a guy's hand, ref's arm goes up every single time. Now, you'd have to start it in the American League. You'd have to do it in the American League for a year first. Okay? And get players down there used to it, and then go from there. But if a defenseman can't do the two-hander, you're going to see more goals where forwards go around, forwards go through. You're going to see a lot more of them. You're going to see more offense. It's going to open up the game. Defensive positioning is part of the reason scoring's down from where it was in the 80s. But certainly when you look at slashing, and back in the late 90s you looked at hooking and holding, there was a lot of it. And I wonder if you crack down on slashing, could you create more offense as a result? I'm a proponent that there's nothing wrong with the game. I am a big proponent that when they're trying to fix the game, they're going about it wrong because there's nothing inherently wrong with the game. But when you have guys who can slash constantly and it's not getting called until it's a bad slash, like the Crosby one, that's a penalty. Okay, I'm not arguing suspension. Even last night, I wasn't arguing, oh, he has to be suspended. Never said it. No. But if you call slashing the way they called hooking and holding, you're likely increasing scoring and you're making the game more wide open at the same time. If Mathot doesn't get slashed on the hands, he probably makes a pass coming out of that. There are certainly times where a guy's coming in across the blue line and he'll take that wrap on the hands. He slows up just a little bit, and now the guy to his right is offside. You're creating offsides. It's a smart play as a defenseman or as a forward playing back. But what if the NHL said, we're going to call the rulebook? It is so weird. I honestly believe that when they talk about changing the game and fixing what's wrong with the game, I think they're looking at it the wrong way. I think the rulebook holds the key to fix anything that's wrong with the game. And I think if they called slashing the way that they called hooking and holding, like everybody says, it happens 100 times a game. You hear Erik Karlsson after the game, happens all the time. Everybody does it. Then there's a problem. I'm fine with playing the puck. I'm fine with lifting a guy's stick to get the puck off their stick. And I'm fine with taking a little whack at the stick so they lose control of the puck. All that's fine. But as soon as they hit the hands, that's penalty. It's like, and before anybody says anything, if I hit somebody with a high stick and it's incidental, it's still a penalty. I'm saying that if you call slashing, even if it's incidental, it's a penalty. You're going to see guys holding back a little bit. And some of these really creative kids that you say, man, these guys are great. You're going to see a lot more of those goals where they go between the legs around the guys. Like, you're going to see a lot more of that. If the slashing's called and defensemen have to play defense and they can't do what they're doing now, much like with hooking and holding back in the early 2000s, you're opening up the game, you're making it a faster game, you're making it, in Mathot's case, it's a safer game then. And, in the meantime, there's a lot more power plays, certainly. But players adapt really quickly. Players adapted really quickly to the hooking and holding. And some of it's come back into the game. So before anybody says that, I know. Some of it's come back in the game. It's not what it was in the early 2000s. It was an epidemic. Because everybody played the trap, and every slow defenseman decided, I'm just going to hook and hold so I can stay in the league for a while longer. Richard Smellick was the other slower defenseman I was thinking of. Dana Merzen with the Canucks. Right now I'm watching that happen in Vancouver with Henrik Sedin and Daniel Sedin. I'm watching them slow down, and it's causing them to take more hooking and holding penalties. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. This has been a very eye-opening video for me in terms of the amount of hits that it's got so quickly. And I feel like there's something there. There's people clicking on that video because they want to see what happened. There are certainly people who want to defend Crosby in the comment section, and there are people who want to slam Crosby in the comment section. And I will discuss Sid the Kid. That's a different video. This is about slashing. This is about what he did, not who did it. What he did is a penalty. No penalty is called. If they call it by the book, do we end up with more of a wide open game? And I think we can all agree that the most exciting hockey in any game is that 3-on-3 overtime. What if players played like that all the time? They did. It was called the 80s. That's why Gretzky scored 200 points in a season. That's why 400 goals were scored by the Oilers in a season more than once. It wasn't the players, defensemen were bad. It wasn't the goaltenders were bad. It was goaltending equipment was a normal human size. Defensemen didn't do the slashing, hooking, holding that they started doing in the 90s. Players got bigger, but that shouldn't lead to lower scoring because they're bigger this way, not this way. They don't take up more ice space. And if they do, it's not enough to make a difference. So would that make everyone happy? Because again, we can all agree that that 3-on-3 overtime is fantastic. That is just awesome hockey. And I miss seeing awesome hockey a lot. I miss seeing teams just open it up and two coaches say, all right, best team wins. And what I see more often than not now is right from the opening faceoffs, both teams are trying not to lose. Both teams are trying not to allow a goal, rather than both teams are trying to score a goal. And those games that at the end of the year we talk about, go, man, remember that game when? Those are the games where both teams are trying to score, not when both teams are trying not to lose, trying not to allow a goal. So let me know what you guys think, and I will talk to y'all again soon.